This essay example, as well as thousands of others, is available in text format on our website for free and without registration. Simply Google Ivy Panda Free Essays.
Some words comprise action or movement, but the real definition of these words is not conversant. This is the same case with modernism and postmodernism. However, modernism has something to do with drama, music, literature, and visual and performing arts, while postmodernism is a scientific perception away from art. At the dawn of the 20th century, superb literary critics and writers embarked on modernist literature, leading to the century's modernism. According to literature understandings, modernism is an art of subjectivism and impressionism. Stories created under modernism based their mood in third-person narration. Furthermore, writers wanted a clear distinction between different genres, while in poetry, poems were just documentaries. Modernism came into the limelight when sentiments, logic, and power of vision borrowed heavily from schools of thought like positivism and naturalism. Century writers wrote materials unleashing new lifestyles. This is because these writers wanted to bring new vigor into a new century because the former century was marred by copying Western cultures and scary activities. The desire to move out of the era of modernism to postmodernism was desirable. On the other hand, postmodernism will comprise new visions that empower people to think on their own and act by themselves. Unlike modernism, the evolution into postmodernism saw humanity adored and technology advance. The papers will examine how modernism evolved into postmodernism. Of great importance is the change in writing, analyzing, and thinking. Instead of positivism and naturalism as schools of thought, modernistic schools portray the true nature of postmodernism. Modernism is of great importance. In fact, without modernism, postmodernism is a dream that never comes true. Modernism played a big role in the evolution of Christianity to science and technology. Therefore, the modernity of yesterday is modernism, while today's modernism is postmodernism. Something that only changes between these two periods is perceptions. Writers and politicians under pressure to restore sanity sought to think and act so that postmodernism became a reality. The First World War depicted a society full of chaos and disarrays in social norms. Modernist authors like Eliot, Pound, and Yeats capitalized on this situation to shed light on the dangers of continuing to abhor past tenets. Egalitarian societal norms from Western culture and disgusting chaos forced these authors to adopt elitism as a new thinking style. However, elitism evolved into critical thinking in postmodernism. For example, on science matters, literary critics teased readers with strong sentiments that invoke their power of logic and reason. Though modernism seems to be a fragmentation of ideas, at least there is an art vision. The changed perceptions were leading people and nations towards postmodernism. Indeed, there are differences between modernism and postmodernism. Nevertheless, these problems arose from discarding old dogmas and adopting new, outstanding perceptions. Some authors define a change from modernism to postmodernism as changes that come within capitalistic markets. The dawn of modernism in the early 20th century, flanked by technological advancements in the motor industry, aesthetics, and literature, began a new thinking approach. Another characterization associated with modernism during this early century period was the monopolistic capitalism of electric motors. On the other hand, it came a period of postmodernism in consumer capitalism where the art of exchange of commodities and services was perfect. The latest advances in electronic consumer goods and nuclear proliferation are associated with postmodernism. Thus, the change from modernism to postmodernism, fueled by new ideas in art, aesthetics, and science, saw an era of postmodernism. From the above analysis, it is evident that modernism was a view based on art and literature, while, on the other hand, postmodernism is a view based on the science of manufacturing and consumer capitalism. During the modernist era, crude means took precedence. However, sophisticated means came to the limelight as knowledge increased, hence, postmodernism. Postmodernism started after the end of the Second World War, paving the way for new ideas and visualization. In a school of postmodernists, narration is the driver of truth and reflections. Moreover, postmodernists adopt new data and new visions while modernistic values and cultural norms such as fascism disappear. British writers in the postmodern age, like Plath, argue that postmodernism is about conceptual and far-reaching thinking rather than theoretical explanations. Notably, in modernism, disorder and chaos ruled. These cataclysmic and intriguing events and the Western lifestyle dictated the type of literature authored challenging modernism. Interestingly, on the other hand, postmodernism outpaced these events by rather adopting an ethical and moral ground. Thus, books, poems, and narratives authored during the modernist age focused more on society's ills. Postmodernism writers center their literary materials on morality, consumer capitalism, and new thinking techniques as an achievement. This is because postmodernism is composed of these hard-worn values. In conclusion, modernism and postmodernism are schools of thought that differ only in vision and thinking. Though gone, modernism, characterized by insanity, portrayed how fragmented the school of thought it is. On the contrary, the postmodernist school of thought comprises respecting the rule of law, respecting human rights, and guaranteeing freedom of expression. The change from modernism to postmodernism is an evolution of traditional beliefs and practices to a modern way of thinking. Additionally, these include the latest advancements in manufacturing, capitalism, science, and technology. Nevertheless, postmodernism is vision-based and far better than modernism. Overall, modernism and postmodernism differ because the latter is more visionary than the former. This essay on From Modernism to Postmodernism was written and submitted by a student just like you. The Ivy Panda Samples database hosts thousands of works similar to this one, on various subjects. Visit ivypanda.com to find what you are looking for, free of charge.